All right, guys, I'm just going to jump right into it. We have people still rolling in, but we always have the stragglers. So today should be fun. We're going to talk about funnel automation and how that relates to deal origination. And it's going to be a 30,000 foot overview. I'll give you a sample of a workflow that we use for ourselves and we use for our clients. Typically, everything that we wind up doing for our clients has been something that we've proven to work successfully internally. So I'll get to that. But just kicking off, we'll do the brief intro of what this social selling process is and how it applies to deal origination, everything that we talk about week in, week out. No big updates on BizNexus or BN.Digital. Then we'll hop right into it. So we'll go into funnel automation, what it is, why it matters. I'll walk you through setting up a multi-channel funnel with one of the funnel software platforms that we like to use, and then we can hop into the Q&A if we have any. We've been getting a lot of Q&A after the fact, so if you want to ask questions, you can. But I kind of like the format that we've had. We really want to get in there and hopefully offer you something valuable in a short format, in a palatable format, and get out. So if it doesn't get dragged out with Q&A, I'm perfectly fine with that as long as these things are valuable for you guys. So who am I? Why should you care? I run BN.Digital. That is our agency focused exclusively on off-market proprietary deal flow. And then BizNexus, which is typically how people find us. We don't really do much for in the way of advertising for our agency. People come through our platform, BizNexus. That is our platform for auction-based deal flow if you're looking to buy a business. The point of everything that we talk about on these lunch and learns is to build up and nurture a really valuable online rolodex, so to speak, over time, right? So if you're a searcher looking to acquire a business, say you're looking for, let's stick with the HVAC example for the duration of today's lunch and learn. I've used that in the past. We'll stick with that. So let's say you're looking to acquire an HVAC company, or if you're an intermediary and that's your wheelhouse, you focus on an HVAC niche. You want to build up a network of those HVAC owners. Who are they? Where are they? What stage of their career are they in? Geographically, where are they? What's the headcount of the company? You want to get very specific about who that business owner is. And then you want to do that for all of the referral prospects who can deliver you that HVAC business owner on an ongoing basis. Are there financial advisors or accountants or lawyers who are somehow dealing with HVAC companies? Identify who they are. And then you want to build campaigns, highly targeted campaigns for each of these prospect types, right? So for the business owners, you're speaking directly to the pain points of the business owner. For the financial advisors, you're speaking directly to the value proposition that you offer for financial advisors. Accountants, the same. Lawyers, the same, et cetera, et cetera. That converts. You bring those people in, and then you want to educate them and nurture them over time as to your value proposition, why you're a qualified authority in the area of business acquisition and sale, how your solution fits their pain points, offering social proof, showing them that you're good at what you do, that you are a qualified authority in your niche, et cetera, over time, to the point where you actually get that sit down and have a valuable conversation about, what does your exit plan look like? Can we talk about a business valuation? What would an engagement look like if you decided to pursue exit with me as an intermediary, or with me as a search funder looking to acquire a business, et cetera. Our process, we typically break it down into 5 stages, and that's because it's a long play. It starts off with optimizing your own online brand, making sure that you're speaking to the end pain points of your target prospect, right? So what that means is less about you, more about them. No long-winded third-person descriptions of who you are and your accomplishments and your alma mater, et cetera. You can have that, but you want to make sure that your LinkedIn profile, your website, all of your social assets speak to the pain points of your end target prospects and the solutions that you provide to those end target prospects. From there, we work on your targeting, getting very specific about your targeting for each of your prospect types, those primary prospects and referral prospects, because if you do this part well, you wind up reducing a lot of wasted time downstream. So targeting is not only figuring out who they are, but then getting the data, right? Enriching all of the data so that if you're going to run a campaign, you can have the opportunity to run a multi-channel campaign. So if you're going to try to reach out to people on LinkedIn, you ideally want to have their phone, their email. If you reach out to them on email, you ideally want to have their LinkedIn, their phone, address for good old fashioned snail mail, drop notes, et cetera. you want to make sure that you have the right data in place for targeting. That's a huge piece. We talk about that week in, week out. We're not going to focus on that today. Then you build campaigns for each specific prospect type, and you build nurturing campaigns. You nurture the prospects on an ongoing basis about who you are, what you do, et cetera, so that you can bring them to a point of capture, right? Of getting the proverbial cup of coffee. We talk about that all the time, right? The goal of this, of everything that we talk about, is to get that proverbial cup of coffee. And I say proverbial because we're in this environment of pandemic where no one's really sitting down for a cup of coffee these days. Maybe they are, maybe you are, but the cup of coffee can be a phone conversation about the exit plan. It can be a Zoom meeting. It's just taking that online relationship and turning them into a real world relationship that can lead to an actual engagement, right? The deal flow funnel that we talk about on an ongoing basis, if you're not familiar with a funnel, think of it as different stages of the conversation with your prospect. At the top, they have no idea who you are. So think of it like a conference where you're going to go and exchange business cards. You hopefully decide that you have enough overlap to exchange business cards, and it'll be worth a conversation down the road, but you know nothing about who this person is, if they actually do what they say they do, whether they're qualified to do it, et cetera, et cetera. So at the top of the funnel, we really love LinkedIn, email, good old fashioned drop notes, snail mail, still very effective. We just like to do that with data, so you can follow it up with something that's trackable, like an email campaign, LinkedIn, et cetera. Phone, those are all tools that work very, very well at the top of the funnel if you're looking to automate the top of your deal origination funnel. We're not going to be focusing on that today. What we are going to be focusing on is everything below the top of the funnel, right? So once you get these prospects in, how do you put them into an automated campaign for nurturing to stay in front of them and capture them? So that's what we'll pop into. Updates, nothing big. You're going to see some offerings from us for 2021 discounts. Every year we'll knock off 20% or so on some of the desirable offerings. We put a limit on it, but we do offer some annual subscriptions each year. So expect those to be coming out by the end of the week. We've also staffed up a bit, so you'll see some new faces in UI, in dev, and customer-facing customer success. So that's really exciting moving into the new year. And then we're rolling out a ton of new features. So from now through the end of Q1, just stick with us with the platform. There's some really cool stuff coming up. You can access our services at BizNexus.com or the agency at BN.Digital. So today, like I've said, we're going to be focusing on those last two stages of the social selling process, nurturing and capturing, and specifically how to automate those processes. We have spent a lot of time teaching you through the social selling webinars about this whole process, right? Each stage of the process, nurturing, capturing, et cetera. We found a lot of people, especially intermediaries, and this is not a knock, it's just how the profession works. When you get busy with the transaction, everything falls apart, right? And from a marketing standpoint, we see this all the time, where intermediaries really want to engage with marketing. They get busy with the transaction and everything just completely falls apart. So the nurturing phase, the posting, the ongoing efforts to stay in front of these really valuable primary prospects and referral prospects, it goes by the wayside. And that's really unfortunate when you're talking about building something that's scalable, building something for the long term, because you can miss opportunities. So how do you automate this to make sure that this doesn't happen? Well, solution is funnel automation. What's the point of funnel automation? Deal origination, again, in my personal opinion, there are a lot of people out there who will speak differently, and maybe you're a better fit for them. But I see deal origination as a long play, right? 95% of the prospects, 99%, whatever it is, the large majority of prospects who you're approaching in this industry will simply not be ready for what you're offering at first at bat, right? There are a variety of reasons for that. The main ones are because, first of all, they don't know who you are. They don't know if you're qualified. Running a business, I mean, this is a high ticket transaction. If you're trying to have a conversation with somebody about selling what they've been building for the past 30 years, you're going to have to establish who you are, that you're good at what you do, you're going to have to get in front of them. They're going to have a degree of familiarity with who you are. That is so much more the case. Every year, this is becoming more and more the case. Google changed everything, right? People want to research you. They want to know about who you are before they actually pick up the phone and reach out. We covered this in every lunch and learn leading up to this, so I'm not going to dig into that. But the days of just approaching people with a cold call and getting a transaction to sell a business, unless that person is going through some sort of personal event like a divorce or something horrible, this is going to be a planned out process. So that's not typically going to work. The marketing rule of 7, I talk about that a lot, where you need to touch these prospects across channels multiple times before you're going to get a conversation about an exit plan or business valuation, especially with a lower middle market company. You can multiply that by 3, you can multiply it by 5. When it comes to business owners who are thinking ahead about their exit options, you need to be in front of them early on. So you need a strategic approach to your nurturing, right? The majority of people who we come across with the clients who come to us, and then people who are just coming into the lunch and learn, or really anybody, they might have a process in place for lead generation. More often than not, they have multiple processes with multiple vendors that are disjointed for lead generation. But then when it comes to actual nurturing, it's just random acts of outreach. Like maybe you log into LinkedIn and start liking and posting, and there's no set process in place. That's not going to work over the long term, and you're wasting your time. So very, very big miss in this industry, considering the fact that the large majority, again, let's stick with 95% of the prospects that you approach are not going to be ready. So it's critical that you have a game plan in place to stay in front of that 95% once you make first contact, right? So what we see a lot of is people making a cold approach to ask for a meeting. It can work. I think it worked a lot more 10 years ago than it does today. I think the best way to do it is to lead with your value proposition and tell them who you are, what you do, maybe offer a link to an article or video or something that proves your bona fides, and then stay on top of them in a coordinated fashion with funnel automation and make the ask periodically, but don't turn away that 95%. Don't burn your brand because you're going so hard for a meeting or a call at first pass that 95% of the people, you're putting that prospect pool in jeopardy because you're burning them at first pass, right? So when we see people going for a meeting on first approach in an email, for example, if you're just doing a cold email that is designed just for a meeting with nothing about your value proposition or proof, social proof, link to an article, for example, we see conversions of actually less than 1% on that. And that can get much higher, up to 20 and 30% if you lead with some social proof. But I'm getting a little bit off track there. So what is funnel automation? It's basically just a process for automating this, having a reliable outreach system for all of the captured primary and referral prospects that you have coming in at the top of your funnel. So if you're running a program, if you have outreach, if you're cold calling, if you're cold emailing, if you're working LinkedIn, if you're sending out the snail mails, each of those top of the funnel efforts is going to result in some sort of targeted prospect, ideally, right? So it's the HVAC business owner and the HVAC referral prospects. You want to get them into a system, and then you want to speak to each specific prospect type over time. You want to educate them. You want to focus on educating them about who you are, what you do, again, how your services fit their pain points. You want to add value. You want to be helpful, nurturing them so that they become familiar with your process, with who you are. They feel more comfortable. They see you and your brand across channels. You want to provide the social proof. And then you have the capture tasks, right? And hopefully you can automate a lot of this through funnel automation. So the tools that we typically will use in funnel automation, email, let's say, lead scoring. If you're working with a CRM, doesn't matter what you're working with. We'll show you ours today, but if you're working with a good CRM, you should be able to implement 90% of what I walk through. Trackable media assets. So if you have, we talk about trackable websites, website pages, media assets. If you have a business for sale page on your website, right? Or if you're a search funder and you're talking about your value proposition for an owner, that's a key page that should be tracked, right? So you should have some sort of tracking pixel on your website so that you can do a lot of things down the road with retargeting visitors. But you can also hopefully automate some sales tasks in your funnel automation if people download trackable media assets, if they visit trackable media assets, if they're visiting a trackable page like your business for sale page, et cetera. Landing pages, speaking to one specific topic with the goal of conversion. Ideally, you have at least a few of those in your funnel. And then retargeting, we've talked about that, so I'm not going to get into it, but retargeting advertising, very, very valuable in the deal origination funnel. And sales pipelines, automated sales tasks based on all the above. So I'll dip into this now. It's 1:17. Again, we try to keep these under half an hour. So I'm going to just walk through creating a funnel and a sample funnel of what we do in-house and for our clients. But basically, let's rewind. We're going to assume that you have a good process in place for the top of the funnel, right? So you've captured a lead. So if you're going after that HVAC business owner, you've got your LinkedIn efforts in place. You've got your direct email efforts in place. You've got your cold calling. You've got your snail mail. You're getting those leads. They're coming in. I'm not going to dig into how to do that. Once they come in, what do? You need to make sure that each of those prospects are coming in and being assigned to a specific user type, right? So with us, I'll just dig into it. We love personas. So this is one of our funnel automation tools where we have everything for sales, marketing, and retargeting. Works really well in this industry. Ideally, if any of those prospects at the top of your funnel are captured, right? So they're in your LinkedIn network, they're opening direct emails, they're replying to direct emails, you've sent them a snail mail, etc. You want to assign them to a list, or even better, a persona, right? So boomer owner John, right? So if you're an intermediary or you're an individual buyer, this is a prospect, a primary prospect that you'd love to have. So when boomer owner John comes into your funnel, we want to make sure that you have a workflow in place. So let's just kind of create one. I'll show you how easily we do this. We'll create a workflow and we'll call it HVAC biz owner, right? And so it's going to start with a trigger. And so the trigger will say persona. So we're going to fit boomer owner John. And I'd create a persona, or I'd have a tag for HVAC on this if I were actually doing this as a live flow. So first things first, that lead, whatever you're doing with vendors on your own, et cetera, once they get into your funnel, they need to get tagged, right? We need to put a label on them. We need to classify them. So that system should be in place. From there, we're going to have an action, right? So maybe I'll send an email. Let's say you brought this person in, like you connected with somebody valuable, an HVAC business owner on LinkedIn, right? Maybe you want to automate the process of sending that prospect, right? So actually, let's put a time delay in here. Your prospect comes in this case, from LinkedIn outreach that you've done. And a day later, you can send them an email saying, sticking with HVAC owner Bob, hey Bob, great to connect on LinkedIn. Just so you know, LinkedIn messages typically fall through the cracks. This is the best contact info for me going forward. It's light. Maybe it's just an introduction. They've got your email. It's just a second follow-up with all the noise that's on LinkedIn. That's valuable. But you're not doing a sell at this point, right? So then after you do that, maybe if you're doing what we've been coaching you on in these calls, maybe you actually wait 30 days. And so in that 30-day time, you're doing everything that we've recommended you do on LinkedIn. You're strategically posting, and your posts are designed to help establish you as a qualified authority in the area of HVAC business acquisition and sale, right? And you send a couple follow-up messages on LinkedIn, potentially nothing overwhelming, but whatever you're doing for your LinkedIn process, you're doing that in your 30-day window. And then maybe off channel, you can send an email, right? So maybe your email is your statement of value proposition. So something along the lines of, this is who I am, this is what I do. Do you want to have a call? Something a little more salesy, closey. It doesn't burn your brand, but at this point, they've been exposed to, they're in your LinkedIn network, that. So the shields are down, so to speak, in that regard. And then you've sent them an email, you've hit them on another channel, and then you've had, a series of LinkedIn. And you can do a lot more in this 30-day window too. Maybe you've hit them on a different channel, and you don't want to be too pushy, but it all depends on what your funnel is. So, after this, maybe you set the statement of value proposition. And if you're working with a good agency or a good tool, this email, you should be able to make sure that it gets seen. So let's say this email goes out. I want to make sure that the user sees it. So I could create, 3 or 4 branches here where I'm basically resending this to anybody who hasn't opened the email. And I can switch up that subject line. So I'm not spamming them, right? As far as they know, I'm sending an email for the first time. But if I'm tracking this, is where data becomes so important. I can make sure that this statement of value proposition, this is who I am. I sell HVAC companies. Do you want to have a conversation about what your exit options might be, or what the buyer landscape looks like in HVAC land, et cetera? You can have that email go out, and you can make sure it gets opened, right? So you can track that. So it's just one email, but you're making sure it's getting in front of the eyeballs. And then maybe, maybe I wait 7 days, and then I create a sales task, right? And so put in a sales task. I assign it to myself, or I assign it to a virtual assistant if I have a sales virtual assistant who I'm comfortable with, or if you have an intern or somebody in-house, you assign that, and then you give it a title, obviously. So this one would be HVAC biz owner follow-up. Maybe put in some notes, etc. And bam, there you go. And this is it. And so if I set this live and I link this up, and if I have a process in place, whether it's webhook, however this person gets set up as the boomer owner HVAC, they're automatically entered into this. Every single prospect who you go after is going to be entered into this drip. And you could do a couple more emails, maybe once a month for a few months, if it's offering value, clear value. So again, to go back to the funnel, we see so many people focused up here, and that's fine, right? It's really, really important. You want to nail this process. You want to nail the direct email, the LinkedIn, the phone, email. You want to get in front of those prospects, the referral prospects. But again, considering the fact that 95% of the people in this industry just aren't going to get back to you here, it's so important, arguably more important, to have a system in place for this bottom of the funnel to get your brand out there over time. So that's the importance of funnel automation. A lot of people, I think, in this industry, especially, just back away from it because it can be so overwhelming. Like if you go into a tool like this, you have everything, right? You can set up retargeting, you can set up landing pages, you can set up personas, you have, you have your deal pipeline. So if these people are coming through, they're going through different stages. You have visual workflows, email templates, page templates. It's completely overwhelming to walk into a CRM cold, especially if it's for the first time, if you've never used a CRM or you haven't engaged with a process like this. But this is what it's for. If you're talking about the takeaway value and you have the right process set up, then this is where all the value comes. You're nailing that 95%. You're staying in front of them, and you're staying in front of them with targeted messaging. And then you can even just retarget them along the way with very, very cheap ads. But that is a topic for another Lunch and Learn. I think we already have one in there. So that's really it, guys. That's the beginning of funnel automation. At the end of each of these webinars, we send out a request to review. What do you want to talk about? What did you like? What did you not like? If this is a topic that you want us to dig more into, let us know. I think a lot of people just don't want to hear about funnel automation. It can just, if it's not relevant to you, it can go over the heads of people who aren't engaged with this process at the moment. We don't want to drive people away from these lunch and learns. We want to keep them valuable, but we only know what's valuable based on your feedback. So this is one where we've gotten a lot of feedback. People want to know about this. I think that's indicative of the industry really catching up to everything online, which is great. So it should be an interesting 2021 in that regard. But yeah, very important. And that's it. So unless anybody has any questions, I'm going to pop out and we'll leave it at that. So hope this was valuable, guys. Please answer the questions from the link that gets fired your way today and follow up tomorrow. Be really helpful, and have a great week. We'll see you next week. Thanks.